I am very excited to show you these opals now that I've polished them. Cheers and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. This week's video I've been quite excited for. Now, I was sent this piece of rough by a customer. It looks very, very promising. A really nice electric blue-green colour bar going around the entire piece of rough opal. It's sitting on really dark potch, so it should yield a very dark opal, or we're hoping, if the body tone gets low enough, even a black opal. The customer that sent me this piece of opal definitely got a bargain because they bought it for £160. As long as there are no inclusions in the face, this should be an easy money maker for them. I have had a look through the colour bar using a gem torch. I can see there are some spots on the inside of the colour bar. Now, I don't know if that's potch or sand. This stone could need slicing, but obviously we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So at the moment it's just important to know how much it weighs, and then we get the exciting part of seeing which pattern we get on top. As you can see, it weighs 9.88 carats. A stone that's just shy of 10 carats obviously deserves the lucky hat. I mean, which opal doesn't deserve the lucky hat, and especially a coffin? If it has a clean face, we should yield a very large stone. If it needs slicing and reducing, if there are sand spots or inclusions that just aren't seen yet, then the stones might reduce. I'm gonna hope for one large opal that weighs as close to 5 carats as possible, or at least 2 small stones that weigh almost 2 carats each. That's my hope. So let's not wait any longer. Let's jump across and start cutting. I'm starting off by just cleaning up around the edges. There were a couple of potch spots as well as sand spots in the colour bar around the edge, so I removed those first. Now it's the exciting part of removing the white cap off the top of the opal. This is the exciting part where you get to see what pattern you're going to get. You can see the colour starting to peek through here. Now, the sand/white cap on top was very thin, so I have to be very gentle on the wheels. I don't want to leave deep scratch marks in the face of the colour, because that just means that there's a chance I won't be able to polish it out if the colour bar is too thin. Hence, I have to be very gentle and just go slowly but surely, trying to remove all the potch and all the sand out the face. The colour's starting to come through really well now, and you can see it's a really bright green and blue gem. I'm starting to be a bit hesitant because, as you can see, there's sand spots and I don't know how deep they go. Here's a close look at what the opal looks like now. Just look at that play of colour and the pattern. It's really, really pretty. As you can see, obviously, along the bottom, there's a big sand spot that eats in the side, as well as those 4 little dots up at the top. I'd love to be able to make a giant teardrop that would be perfect for a pendant, but it's just not going to be possible. I think those sand spots go too far in, as well as the potch in the face is going to cause me far too many issues. Unfortunately, we've had to take a quick pause. There are a lot of inclusions in the face of this opal. As you can see right now, if there were no inclusions, I could turn this into a bright teardrop shape that would be perfect for a pendant. The colour play is truly immense. It's got greens and blues, and it looks like, this is why I love opal, because you can stare at it and it looks like it just goes deeper, but as you can see from the side shot, the colour bar is very thin. I'm going to have to study this opal a lot more before I finish cutting it. I'm going to have to decide whether the potch goes all the way through, or if I'm going to be able to keep it with just enough colour bar to where all the inclusions are gone, but there's still this great brightness. If I go any further, am I going to lose the green or the blue? That's my only concern. I want to keep this as a large gem, but I do think it's going to need cutting. If you look at the bottom of the opal, the colour bar is almost non-existent. There's still not even a hairline. There's a fraction of a millimetre left for me to play with. I'm gonna need to bring it in slightly to be able to get that setting edge, but these are just decisions that I'm gonna have to make. So I'm gonna have to study it for a second. Do I go deeper? Do I start slicing now? Do I bring the edges in to see if the potch goes all the way in? Because if I bring the edges in, I could explain my thought process, but you'd be here all day. So I'm gonna go and think about it. I'm gonna make that decision and show you the results. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna need it today, Opal gods. I'm gonna need it. I've had no choice but to slice the opal. It turns out the potch went all the way through from the top of the colour bar to the very bottom, so there was no way I could have one whole opal cut from this piece of rough. I've done my best to leave a large stone as well as a small stone, and I think the majority of the potch is going to come out the face, so that's a success. I think it's really unfortunate that I haven't been able to have or yield one large opal that's close to 10 carats. And I know what some of you might be thinking, oh Will, why do you sound so despondent? At least you've got 2 opals anyway. And you're right, we do have 2 great opals with fantastic colour play and even more importantly, really good brightness on them. So they stand out, so that's definitely a success. The reason I sound despondent or disappointed is because it's not my opal, it was a customer's opal. I was really hoping for one large opal to come out of it. Yes, of course it's not my fault that there are inclusions in the face, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I was hoping for something better, and I hope that they're not going to be disappointed by what's had to be done. Obviously they were totally aware, they even said to me that they thought the opal needed a slice, so they're totally aware that that was going to be the case anyway. It's one of those things where it would have been nice not to have to do that. So some of you might be thinking, what's there not to be celebrating? And as Kobe once said, what's there to be happy about? The job's not finished. We'd have 2 opals, but there is still potch in the face and the colour bars are very thin. So the job's not finished yet, we're not out of the fire, and there's still some work to be done. Now it's on me and my skills as to whether I can do that. So stick around, keep watching, and let's see what we can make out of this. Now that the opals are on their dop sticks, I can begin to perfect the shapes and perfect the domes. It's important all opals have their setting edge, otherwise they'll just have to stand loose. A setting edge is like having a little curve around the edges of the opal, so whenever it's set into jewellery, the claws or the bezel will have something to hold on to, essentially. The wheel I'm using right now is a 400 grit wheel. It removes the scratches left behind by the previous wheel, but also allows me to really dial in the shape and make sure it's perfect. It doesn't remove material too fast, so I really like this wheel because I can really see the shape coming in and I can see the material coming off slowly but surely. I use my fingers here to remove any excess light. Helps me just, I don't know, see the shape a little bit better, I guess. Once I'm happy with the shape, as I mentioned before, I can now work on that setting edge and rolling that edge in. Because the dome on this opal is very low, I'm leaving it quite flat against the wheel. Moving the opal fast over the wheel really allows you to get a nice even dome over the top. Moving over to the 600 grit wheel. This removes the scratches left behind by the 400 grit wheel. It's not so easy to change the shape on this wheel, but it is possible. I like to use this one mostly just to finish up the pre-polish and make sure everything's looking good. I like to work very slowly on this wheel first before moving the opal faster. That way I know that all the scratches are left out. So by the time I am running the opal very quickly over the wheel, I know it's just knocking out all those hard edges and leaving a nice even dome over the top. use a loupe at this stage just to make sure all the scratches are out and that the opals are ready for the final polish. As always, it's a cerium oxide blend on a felt wheel. This takes any final scratches that are very fine out of the opal and leaves a mirror polish. I am very excited to show you these opals now that I've polished them. Hey, what a success, eh? I know I was a bit down earlier, but the inclusions came out in the face the more I polished. Yeah, the larger one still has inclusions in the face in terms of a bit of potch, but the majority cleaned up, so I can't be mad about it. Today was a good result. Obviously, the important part now is to figure out how much they weigh, what they're worth, so on and so forth. We'll start with the smaller one first. The piece of rough weighs 9.88 carats, if I'm not mistaken. The smaller of the two I've cut weighs 1.25 carat. In terms of the value on that, it's not a oval or a circle, which means price is harder to determine because those sort of shapes are more desirable. But the brightness, I'd say, is a 3. It might be erring on the side of 2 because the colour can be a bit directional, which brings the value of the brightness of the colour down. So a 2 or a 3 at 1.25 carats. Remember, I say this every time, I'm a wholesaler, so my prices are generally cheaper than what people would charge direct to the public or as a retailer. 1.2-ish carats, you could ask around £100 for that gem. So about £100 a carat, more or less, give or take. Obviously, the cream of the crop, the kingstone, the larger of the two, the better opal, still is not a oval or a round or a cushion cut, that sort of thing. It is a teardrop shape, but it's a decent size. It's got a nice large face of colour, so that helps towards its value. It weighs 2.565 carats, so 2.5-ish carats. It's got a low dome. Brightness is 3, I could even argue 4. The colour faces from all angles. It's got green and blues. Flagstone, it's got a tiny bit of chaff pattern right in the centre. It would make a beautiful pendant, there's no denying. I think for that gem, 3, upwards of 4. I think you could even charge more than £400 for that gem. I'd say 400 is a pretty decent price to ask for a stone like that. It'd make an epic ring or an epic pendant. It's whatever you want to do, but that's a success. He paid £160 for the piece of rough, my customer, and we've made easily £500 as a lowball on these gems here. I think you could probably ask for a bit more, but hey, each to their own, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact we were able to cut some opals out of it. That's the important part. The fact we were able to yield some gems is the #1 success. The fact that money has been made on top is just an added bonus, but a very sweet bonus at that. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe for weekly opal content. Please let me know of your thoughts down below on what you think of these opals. Do you like them? Do you think I made bad decisions, etc.? I want to hear what you guys have to say. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it, and all the regular business. Like, comment and subscribe, you know the standard stuff. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in a week's time.